Rugby Chat, episode 72. Oh my word, God, I'm getting old.
You're old. I'm feeling old today.
Old show. Well, I know you're feeling old. We had to talk about that earlier. You're perhaps falling asleep on the couch before the show kicked off. Sorry, hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place showing predictions and opinion. But you've heard that all before. Just joining me right here is Ashwin. How you doing, sir?
Hi, I'm feeling old.
Absolutely.
I actually did a solid day's work for the first time in close to 6 months.
Wow, how much did you pay?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Well,
I did more than 8 hours. I did something like 10 hours today, and I got paid nothing.
So this is what happens when you end up with people who are self-employed, or get kind of
sort of self-employed, trying to build a business.
Yes, kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't really make much money if you don't. Anyway, so what else brings it up there? Yep, there we go. Cool. He's now up on the. We're up on the TV. On a TV star. It feels great. I should take a photo of that actually and put it on Twitter, on a TV show. Oh, and Mr. Stephen Harris is joining us. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, very good, and a very happy New Year to you two, and also those viewers out there, wherever you are around the world. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So it's not working apparently, says Blossom MCC, so hopefully it's working now. Thoughts on England Six Nations squad? Okay, we can have a quick chat about that, even though we haven't got the... we need to sort of search that and bring it up, I guess. Hey, so that was Niall Cotton asking for that, and hi Shirley as well. Thank you for joining us this evening live on the show. So,
the picture. I'm not on TV. I'm not on camera, mate. I'm gutted.
You need to lean over.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh dear me, sorry. Have to.
It's like just pull it back.
There we go. We've got him.
They'll do.
The cameraman has done his bit.
Yeah, gone to bed. The cameraman's gone to bed, so we'll have to do it all ourselves.
Oh, dear me. So, cheers. Yes, England's squad. Oh, quick, better bring it up. Have you... Six Nations. So, Stephen, because I know Ashwin, the answer is what Six Nations is going to be from him. So, have you been keeping an eye on the squads and how the teams are heading into the Six Nations?
No, not really, but what I do know, it starts on Sunday the 3rd of February, so that's really only not this weekend, but the following weekend for us, so it is not too far away, but it's super exciting. I think in the first round, don't England play Ireland in the first round out of either?
Yeah, so we've got England playing Ireland in the first round, and I think some of the points about that, the Irish squad is clearly stacked, which, as we've seen, finished last season with just one loss to Australia, beating the All Blacks. They come into the competition, as you'd expect, as favourites. If we look at some of the question marks around the England side, though, Dylan Hartley's injured, which leaves a bit of a leadership gap. Also, Owen Farrell's got a thumb injury, but he's supposed to be back, so we'll see. That's very quick surgery, having missed the last of the gone blank European Rugby Champions Cup game between Saracens and Glasgow. But the big news is that players such as Mako Vunipola and Billy Vunipola are back. Whilst Dylan Hartley's injured, Chris Robshaw's injured, JJ has just come back from injury, so he's not in the side either. He's been out for a long time. Anthony Watson is obviously still out injured as well. On the whole, though, England's squad, you've got to say, is probably as fit as it's been for the last 2 years, probably now. So it's sort of the first time they've not had serious injuries and some sort of major players missing. I think. Underhill is the other person that's obviously missing from this. But yeah, this is probably about the strongest side as Eddie Jones has ever managed to pick, which is sort of great because obviously heading into this tournament we've got Wales who ranked above them in the world rankings in third, very quietly going about the business last year, also looking very good as well. They start with France, and that's the Friday night game. Tuolangi Manu Tuolangi is available as well, as you say. So yeah, this is as good a side as we've seen. The only big question mark really is around scrum half, where Danny Kerr has been dropped. do let me know when you fancy adding any.
You're doing outstandingly well.
We're just listening to the rundown of the squad and before we're here.
So the question marks really are if Farrell isn't there, who is the backup fly half after Ford? But everyone says Farrell will be back. Looking at the squad, it's probably going to be Slade, who really hasn't played much fly half. Well, hasn't played hasn't played any fly half or on Devoto for that matter. Neither of them have played any fly half this season. Both of them have played fly half in the past, but it's a while back and definitely don't have experience at this level. And the other big question mark is in that scrum half position. Danny Care's been dropped. Dan Robson's come back in. It's nothing really against Dan Robson, very good player. The problem, the only question mark is that does Eddie Jones know who he wants behind Ben Youngs? Because he just keeps rotating it.
What about Cipriani?
Cipriani
his name does. I mean, like, I'm not too au fait with the whole scene exactly, but I do keep seeing his name being thrown about by his fans, obviously. So it's not like he's retired or anything.
No, he's playing for Gloucester. He's came back from injury to Gloucester. One of the problems. So basically, Danny Cipriani. One of the points that Eddie Jones made early on in his England career was Danny Cipriani's a starter. He's not someone you have on the bench. He's a guy that basically you choose. You hand over the style of play, and you have to play his way. That's a very good player, but he plays that way. If you're not going to do that, and you're not going to get a whole hog with it, and when you've got Farrell, you're not going to do that, then he's not really part of the side. Sorry, is homebrew? No, it is Fiji Bitter. And the reason I chose Fiji Bitter was that it's the New Zealand Sevens this weekend, and obviously Fiji being a 7 seed. So I thought, hey, topical. And we'll be talking about New Zealand Sevens and also, Royal or All Black weddings tomorrow night. So we'll cover those things tomorrow night. But no.
I'm just looking at that England squad. Despite having maybe a couple of injuries or unavailabilities, it's still a damn strong squad, Paul. Any squad, you've still got the likes of Joe Launchbury, Courtney Laws, George Cruz. That's 3 quality locks.
And Itoji's in there as well, so you've got 4 quality locks.
Yeah, Itoji. Oh,
I thought Itoji was injured.
No,
he's not. He's back.
So basically, this is there's a couple of players, but you never ever have a fully fit squad. This is as fit as an England squad gets.
Until Eddie Jones flogs them to death.
True.
Yeah, it looks squad. What's he named? A squad of 35, and they're just probably waiting on the fitness of a couple of guys. They're just waiting to see what's happening with Brad Shields. But I'm saying that they're still strong. Feel a bit sorry for the flanker that you mentioned before, who Underhill, who should have had the winning try against the All Blacks, didn't quite happen. We move on. It's a good squad, and from what I understand and what I'm reading, Ireland has got a couple of injuries, a couple of their locks out, and Ian Henderson is out. So, hey, who knows? I think England goes into this game with all the pressure on Ireland. Don't you agree?
Oh, pressure's always on the favourite, isn't it? We've learned that the hard way. Ireland are always now going to go in for the Six Nations games as the favourite into every game. People are comparing them as on a par, if not better than All Blacks. So every game they go into, they're the favourites to win it. Pressure's on them. So, but one thing I will say is that although England are injury-free, it's about combinations, right? And it's just like how much that Ireland side, even though you've mentioned a big couple of their, regulars injured, they've still got a lot of players, a lot of game time together, a lot of combinations that know each other very well. And that's the thing that England's going to have against them, is the fact is that for once they're all fit, but when's the last time the Vunipola brothers were, playing with the pack that they're going to be rolling out there with, Tuilangi in the centres if he does, with second five. That combination, it's combinations that seem to be the key, especially when you get to those top battles.
Yeah, you got to say sense combination and who's playing at fullback are two big question marks for this. It's obviously Elliot Daly got the fullback berth during the November test, but Brown has come back. And also Jack Now had a great game against Munster at the weekend at fullback as well. So there's...
Well, before we move on from Jack Now, it's like, won't he be playing on the side of the scrum for England though?
See, now this is one of these things where basically someone didn't really listen to what Eddie Jones was saying. They took the first bit of, hey, he can play a bit like a forward. But what they missed out with it was he said, as an extra forward playing around the breakdown. Now, if anyone who watched the game against, and I've gone blank as to who the third team was, so it was Munster, Exeter, Cast. So anyone who watched the game against Cast, you'll have seen Jack Now pick up from the base for a ruck and use his twinkle toes to dance around and go in for a try. And that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about actually playing him as a 7. He's talking about having him play in and around the ruck as a pick and go player, not so much as a...
So he's wearing his 11 jersey or his 14 jersey, because I always get my right and left wings mixed up. Or 15.
He tends to be 14, yep.
Okay. So make up numbers in a ruck, and he can pick up the ball and dart off and take them by surprise.
Yes.
I think what you're saying, just give him free license.
Yeah.
Yes. So as the Egg Chasers very well put, I listened to their podcast on the way down, on the way up here today, look, that's nothing new. I mean, Shane Williams used to do that for Wales. I mean, name on the Scudder will come into that kind of role as well for Indian New Zealand. So it's nothing that we haven't seen before. It's not as revolutionary as people are trying to make out. The other one he said, which was kind of interesting, was that Owen Farrell gets special treatment and gets listened to by refs. And then they tended to try to, again, they cut off the quote at that point and forgot to mention a bit after where he goes, he's earned that by being the best player in the world. So
what?
So yes, they've chosen.
No wonder the journalists don't take him seriously.
They've taken the controversial bit that Sexton gets preferential treatment by refs, but they missed off the bit that says yes, he gets that because he's so good. He's earned it. Talking Six Nations schedule, France versus Wales will be at 9 a.m. New Zealand time on Saturday. So I will definitely be live straight after that game, give you post-match reaction. So do come back on this channel for that. The Scotland-Italy game is at 3:15 a.m. and the Ireland-England game at 5:45. I'll probably try and get up to the 5:45 one. The 3:15 one I will probably skip Scotland-Italy, to be honest.
Oh, Hash!
Yes, harsh, but fair.
Yeah, that'll be hard work dragging yourself up for that game. With the greatest respect, where is that being played? Out of interest, Paul.
Murrayfield.
Tough ask for the Italians, methinks.
Oh, if the Italians win a game, win a single game in this tournament, I'll be amazed.
It'll be against England.
Exactly.
Look, just in terms of the squad selections, though, when you're like, you've seen the Irish squad also named, the Welsh, Scottish, etc. It's just like the days of real big surprises are gone, aren't they? You don't really get, oh wow, my God, where did he come from type scenario. You've generally got, you might get a surprise, but you generally know of the player, and it's like, yeah, it's a bit of a surprise, but yeah, he's got some attributes, sort of thing.
So you mean what do you mean? Somebody comes out of the woodwork and puts their hand up, Ash?
Yeah, basically, or, an absolute sort of like, really, you're picking him, and a true sense of bolter, the term that we use down here in NZ, is, we're looking for a bolter to come through, but generally these days no squads have them, do they?
No, not really, because I think what we have now is in all these professional leagues, we pretty much know who all the players who are on the cusp of breaking through. Like a player that I've seen running around, I think he runs around for maybe Munster, and I stand to be corrected, is the boy Jordan Lamour. Is that the fullback?
Yep.
Who plays up there? He is some runner, and you just think it's only a matter of time before he actually cracks it at that top level. Obviously, Rob Kearney is their number one fullback, and I think that's the sort of player you look at. In the England squad, there's a guy, Gillies or Guinness that's been picked in the front row, Paul. Can't think of his name, but apparently he's supposed to be Gench. Apparently he's supposed to be very promising.
Yeah, no, and I think also if you've got surprises in a Rugby World Cup year, then basically you've not been doing your job properly for the 3 previous years. I mean, Frizzell, for example, is someone that none of us expected to get an All Black call up last year, but he did. Now I can't see the All Blacks doing that this year. If they do, it'll be on the wings, and it'll be. I mean, we've talked about this the other week, but it'll either be Bridge or that guy or the fullback from Tasman, I've gone blank, young guy.
Will Jordan.
Yeah.
So it'll be one of those two, probably, if anybody at all, and it'll be in the outside backs. But yeah, Rugby World Cup year, you're not going to do it. You do it in the 3 years previous.
And so it really comes down to what you've sort of gone through that English squad, and they've been hit by injury the last few years. So it's like, okay, these are the players that are back and sort of fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to have just a quick chat about Kieran McCormick's comment in the chat, where he says, "I'm unsure why Sexton is mentioned by Jones. I couldn't imagine Smith talking about an English player in such a light." Now, again, I'm going to steal a catchphrase from the Egg Chasers podcast because I loved it, and it is something that Eddie Jones has been doing forever. And they didn't call it a headline; they call it a Jones line. And basically, what Eddie Jones does is he makes sure that he sets the agenda that's in the papers. He makes it easy for the journalists to write their piece and to write their copy by giving them an easy headline and giving them something to write about, rather than having them figure out what they want to write about, and it be something that he doesn't want them talking about. So he's deliberately putting out there controversial or points that take the pressure and take the headlines and any focus away from his players.
Create the clickbait for them.
Exactly. He creates clickbait for them, and he's very, very good at that. I mean, at the Rugby World Cup, one of the things he started talking about is Rob Shaw a 7, and that was at the 2015 Rugby World Cup when he was managing Japan. He didn't want them to talk about Japan. He wanted them to talk about something else. And so what he said something controversial about another team, and off they went, and they ran with it. Now, what happens? He becomes England captain, and he basically plays Rob Shaw as a 7, but just puts a 6 on his back. If you look at the back row that he chose, different to compared to the Stuart Lancaster one, he literally put Rob Shaw in 6 and Haskell in 7. He just switched the 2 guys round, the numbers, which obviously when you're talking about playing style, the back row makes zero difference at all. So he obviously thought the guy could play that position, but he was just doing it because he knew it was something that they would take and run with, and that's what he does. Every single time he will talk about something, and he is the best guy at managing the media and having them talk about what he wants them to talk about. We have Hansen do some of the stuff. I mean, he'll go and say, "Oh, Wallabies are favourites."
So
and everyone rolls around.
Yeah. Like we just did now. So what you're saying is that Warren Gatland sort of needs to go to the Eddie Jones School of Press.
Oh God, no! Gatland is another expert at this.
You reckon? He got chewed up and spat out, and he got upset about it when he came here with the Lions.
Oh, he did.
And it was actually the English press that upset him.
Yeah, but he was trying to be nice and trying to hold and try and gain respect and all that kind of stuff. When he's doing it in the Six Nations, it's a totally different ballgame entirely. I mean, he said things like, "Oh, the Welsh hate the Irish, so they're the team we hate the most," and stuff like that, like a week before a game, just to deliberately wind people up. So no, he's more than happy to have a go. But Eddie Jones is a class act in that kind of thing. You can not like it. You can say it's all it's not part of the game, but it's part of his game, and it's part of the media game.
And I was going to say the crazy thing about it, the English press or the press over there will be chasing Matt Bone for the next 2 weeks, and he'll basically probably drip feed a little bit more. But I totally agree with Paul. He does that very well. He just sets the agenda, and it's not even a mind game. It's just taking the media in a direction that they didn't even think to go to.
Yep.
Smart man.
Absolutely.
So let's Prac 2 asking, has Italy shown any improvement, any chance of a win against anybody
No,
not in the Six Nations.
Not in the Six Nations. Sorry.
We're assuming he's talking about the Six Nations. Because if he's not talking about the Six Nations, they might have a go against Georgia.
The only game actually I'm trying to think of here, and I'm just trying to figure out if they're at home or not against France. Because obviously France lost to Fiji in the November window, so France are definitely not at their best either. But I think that Italy are playing France away. I know they're not. Italy got France at home in the last weekend. So if you want to have as an absolute long shot, I would say that is their one and only chance. But I still don't give them much of a chance.
France have got Wales at home first up.
Yeah, and as I say, we'll be live on this channel straight after that, within 5 minutes, the whistle being blown and telling you what we thought of the game. The last round of Italy. Yes, Italy club sides have shown improvement. Okay, Treviso especially are a much better side, than they are. They're looking eventually have got their structures somewhat right, but it takes time for those structures to take effect, like 10, 15 years. And Conor O'Shea's only been there for just over 3 years now. So he's laid all the groundwork, and it will come through. The problem is, it's not going to come through in the next 2 months, basically. Piers says up the Blues, yes, and got a couple of Blues jerseys on. I've gone for a bit of a Buzzy Bee one today instead, to mix things up. So to just take Ashwin from out of his comfort zone to totally out of his comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ashwin, out of the Glendale Raptors, the Seattle Seawolves, the New York Rugby United New York, Toronto Arrows, San Diego Legion, the Utah Warriors, the Houston SaberCats, and the Austin Black Elite, and New Orleans Gold. Who do you think is going to take out Major League Rugby this year? Because that kicks off this weekend.
Well, I was sort of thinking you've got, I think the strong teams are the Raptors, the Seawolves, and there was one other team you mentioned at the end there because you rattled off so many teams, and I'm old and I forget. There was 3 teams that you mentioned there, but
I mentioned 9 teams.
But in terms of the teams that'll be up there and challenging for the title. So you've got the Raptors and Seawolves, who I believe have actually last year they were in the finals.
They were, yeah. Well, I am well done, sir. So the Glendale Raptors topped the table last year in the regular season, and then they lost to the Seattle Seawolves in the final. That kicks off this weekend. I haven't actually decided yet which games, or I'm going to do live post-match reactions. But I have. If you want to see my predictions, those are on the DrivingMaul predictions.
The new team.
And and if you head over to the Runner Sports for previews of all those teams and also power rankings. And I'm afraid, Christopher Edwards, Toronto will not win Major League Rugby as an expansion side. Sorry. Also, so for those of you that aren't aware, obviously Toronto and New York are both in the northeast of the North American continent, which means they are covered in snow for the next month or so, and hence the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season they have to play away. So not only are they expansion teams that are brand new this year, admittedly, Rugby United New York is made up of Old Blue and blank. This is the other club side. Anyway, sorry, but they're made up of 2 club sides in New York, Old Blue and I can't remember it. But anyway,
That other side.
I was doing really good until then, remembering all the names. But basically, they play their first. Okay, thank you, Chris. 8 games away, and then 8 games at home, pretty much, which is an absolute killer for a brand new side to go away, have to play all those games away. So I think getting that early momentum is going to be really difficult for them, which is why I think they are going to struggle. On that side, Steve, anything to add to Major League Rugby, or?
No, not really, but I'm sort of curious. I do know there's a lot of New Zealand players running around up there. I know McGrath, who's Kit Morath, who's the Tongan first five, runs around for a club up there. I'm not entirely sure who it is, but I know speaking to Kit's.
He ran around for the Warriors last year, the Utah Warriors.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he's now left them. So
oh
he's
wow!
not this year.
He's not there this year. Okay, end of that story.
I just wanted to say, look, to the hundreds of thousands of fans following us and listening into us and watching our videos. I saw some of the Major League Rugby last year, and it's actually it's for a new competition, a growing competition. It actually was good quality rugby. I felt. It's just unfortunate with two young kids and a wife. I can't really watch how much I'd like to watch. Especially the timings for the games is great.
Yep.
It's sort of afternoon, so especially if we've got a rainy day in particular, get onto it and have a look, because it's definitely worth having a look at.
So last year, for those people, so if you're outside of the States, you could watch all the games for free on Facebook Live. So check them out there. I assume it's going to be the same again this year. I'm not sure.
That's great.
Pitch quality was fine.
Yeah.
Some of the camera work was a little bit tighter than we would like. I'd like to pan out a little bit, but I mean, hey, we're getting picky now. If we're going to be talking about that,
I think that, to be honest, and that is a talking point, and probably worth a topic one day. But I mean, like, rugby's quite unique in the camera angles to really paint the picture of the game. Most sports, if not all other sports, you can run a tight camera angle because that's all you need to see. But with rugby, it's so varied. So, it does take some skill. And when you look at it, I felt that New Zealand were sort of leading that in terms of directing a game, in terms of game of rugby. And even now, with obviously new people coming through, don't even necessarily understand the game. The camera work over here isn't as great as it used to be either, because it isn't an easy game to paint the picture with the cameras.
Yep. What Stephen's typing
in. In amongst sales targets.
I'm just trying to get up to play with this American competition, and I've still got nowhere.
So there is one of the things that here's a cheat for all of you out there as to if you want to check out the where players are moving and going. If you type in whatever club, whatever competition you're talking about, and then transfers, and bring you up a Wikipedia page, and the Wikipedia page lists all the teams and everyone that has joined and left in the last year. Now, Wikipedia isn't 100% correct, but it gives you a very, very good guideline as to who has and who hasn't left teams. So if you're wondering who has and who hasn't who's moved around, who's left your Super Rugby sides, type in Super Rugby transfers 2019. And that's and have a look at that page. It'll give you a good idea as to who has and who hasn't moved, and it's always a good place to look for that kind of information. Simon Hughes says Italy is likely to have 3 teams in the Challenge Cup next year. Yes, if they can beat the Romanian and Russian sides, they do have a playoff to get in there. Last year, a German side got in, but then because of ownership issues, in the competition between them and another, one of the owners owned 2 teams in the same competition, so the German team got dropped out. So they would have been in. But it's been a bit of a shame to see how Timarosa Saracens and NSI have gone this year. Both of them losing by 100 points, or both having 100 points put on them in the final games. It was a bit tough. So there you go. Paul, do you think with the MLR, will Canada improve their new team coming into the MLR? So one of the things we saw for the USA was last year the USA for the very first time ever managed to pick an entirely professional squad for their national side. And what we saw there when they played against Scotland was they won with the last kick of the game. They beat Samoa with the last kick of the game in November, I believe it was, from memory.
Yep.
So what you're seeing is the fitness of the players has improved because they can now be full-time professionals, and that's the one area that I think Canada will get the immediate impact is that they'll have more professional players who are fitter and can go deeper into games. The skill levels and all that kind of stuff will take a number of years to build up and improve. But that strength and conditioning is something that, yes, they will get an immediate benefit from. Stephen's feeling a bit dry.
I'm just looking at Ashton pouring his beer. He needs to work on that.
It's a spider.
Is that what it is? A spider.
It's a spider.
I was about to say on the same weekend of the Six Nations Championship, you've got the America's Rugby Championship started with now Argentina. They put in an Argentinian 15, and in the first round they're playing Brazil, and then basically the next game is Chile versus USA. Funnily enough, you were just mentioning them, and then Uruguay versus Canada. That's on the first round that particular weekend. But I'll be really curious to see, given that New Zealand Māori toured both Chile and Brazil last year, I'll be interested to see how these sides actually go against, reasonable opposition.
No, absolutely. I mean, so the USA go into this as reigning champions. They were joint champions 2 years ago, and then they won it outright last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go. As you say, Brazil and Chile have been much more have had much more exposure to the New Zealand public because of those Maori games, which was fantastic. And I think, but for me, the game that's going to be really interesting is Uruguay versus Canada, because Uruguay dumped Canada out during the qualification, and so qualified above Canada for the Rugby World Cup. So it's going to be. So I'm really interested. I think there's a bit of a grudge match lined up there for me. So I think for opening round of the competition, Uruguay Canada for me is the one I'd watch in that one.
Yeah, that's in Uruguay as well. So home game for the South Americans.
So obviously, Uruguay, Canada, and the USA all in the Rugby World Cup. Obviously, Argentina, this is, as you say, it's their second string side. So you're incorrect, Paul. Only the Italian team are playing in the Continental Shield final. Oh, sorry, Simon. I've gone and I've been
misinforming
our audience. So it looks like the Continental Shield final it's an Italian team versus an Italian team. So they've obviously come first and set, or they're going to come first.
That's right, Simon. We'll be having a performance review afterwards, and we'll be dealing with that in our performance review straight after our broadcast.
And just in the same way that referees have their performance reviews kept confidential, we'll keep mine confidential too.
It's all right, I'll leak it.
Oh, dearie me. So yeah, the America's Rugby Championship, or something that some people sometimes refer to as the America's Six Nations, is also kicking off. It's not the exact same weekends as the Six Nations, but it's pretty similar. So yeah, looking forward to seeing actually AJ McGinty in action. He's been out a bit injured recently. But apparently he's back for a couple of those games. Right there. This is one you wanted to talk about. Phew, I can sit back and take a relax now.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
Did I say something?
Yep, you did.
Oh no. Tragedy?
No, don't you dare start singing. No.
No, look, I suppose it's been popping up in the old Twitter feeds, Facebook feeds, etc. Is the non-performance of some of the New Zealand players, in particular. Well, I suppose they become ex-All Blacks as soon as they're selected for the European sides, and having a go, well, sort of, saying that why are the European clubs actually signing up these All Blacks when they can't actually play the game? Which I thought's a bit harsh.
Can't name names.
Well, who said it?
No, which players are we talking about?
Well, obviously, so the key ones.
We're talking about 20 odd players.
Yeah, well, that was the argument back. Was that? Well, hang on. You're naming a couple of players that obviously Cruden and Sopoanga are the ones that keep popping up in conversation. And it's so they're the two players, and then everybody else goes, name the others, and it's just like you get a bit of silence and the like. But there's still sort of discontent at some of the performances of New Zealand players going up there. And from my point of view, it's a case of like, well, it is a different style of rugby that is played up there, and it's not a case of necessarily that they're not good. They might not be good enough, to tell you the truth. I mean, you can have a player that plays in a very good team, looks good because they're in a very good team, performs their roles really well in a really good team. Take them outside of that environment and they might not be as good as they look. But the reality is I think it's just the fact of adapting to a different style of play, whether it's a different competition, a different environment, the different team structures. You like to think that teams play differently from each other, not all the same. Otherwise it'd be pretty boring rugby to watch, wouldn't it? So I think it's more on adapting to the new environments.
Guys, just completely turning it around. How many players have gone to the Northern Hemisphere, come back to New Zealand, and I probably look at somebody, I know it's a while ago, like Luke McAllister, who, when he left New Zealand, wasn't a bad sort of footballer. Obviously he exited after the 2007 Rugby World Cup debacle for the All Blacks. But on saying that, then was basically brought back, but probably never really reached the heights that he had before. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even I think Jerome, when he sort of, a more recent example with 2011. Before that, he went and played that year in Japan, which is quite different, I know, from the European rugby and what we're saying, but still comes back, and it takes a while to get back in, getting up to speed. So, there's the factors that you've got what you've said with Luke McAllister, who never really seemed to recapture the performances that he had prior to going to Europe. And then you've got players that just need time to adapt to environments as well.
Very much so.
He's come back and hasn't managed to get back in the All Blacks either. He's been back for a few years now. There's a few of them, as you say. I think with Lima Sopawanga, though, if you follow his Twitter feed or Instagram feed, he's definitely getting around and seeing plenty of the UK, which I think is perhaps another. It's great to see. It's lovely, and it's good to see he's working, enjoying the culture. But when you're not performing on the field, sometimes
you want to lay low.
Sometimes you want to lay a bit low. Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'll touch on Aaron Cruden. Now those comments came. Obviously, Montpellier is owned by a very wealthy guy who made all his fortune in scaffolding and cement. Moed Ultrad, he's a Syrian guy, but he. I was a bit surprised by his comments because his pivot's been injured quite a bit. Aaron's had quite a few injury problems. Even dare I say it, when he was in New Zealand, he was starting to have niggly injury problems, if you know what I mean. And obviously for him, those continues. But when I have watched some of Montpellier's games when he's been on the field, I think he's played all right. But I take on board what you mentioned before, Ashwin. It is a different type of style. Paul mentioned Rennie Ranger before. Now I had a good chat to Rennie after he came back from Montpellier, and I asked him, what were your main frustrations? He said, spent a lot of time chasing kicks. And he said, it's unfortunately when you do that and you're not getting your hands on the ball, you actually start going to look for the ball. And when you go and look for the ball, you get out of position. And obviously at the time he had a falling out with the head coach at the time, and it sort of went pear-shaped. And it's his second little venture up to La Rochelle. I think that was just basically pretty much all in and around money and the fact that he hadn't picked up a super contract, guys. But on saying that, he has matured and he's really looked good at Mitre 10 Cup level. I'm kind of excited about seeing him run out for the Sunwolves this year.
I'm not.
Ross remembers the Blues losing to the Sunwolves a couple of times.
Listen, hopefully that's another argument for another day, but or another debate for another day. But there's also been some success stories up there. Victor Vito at La Rochelle, very well. He's a very well respected professional. Even Conrad Smith when he was up there, and who else is up?
Now in fact, they liked him so much they kept him on as defence coach.
Absolutely. I think that's a sign of respect.
Yeah, Christopher was in the chat room mentioning the fact that, Carl Heyman, Nick Evans, Brock James, who I wasn't really aware that he'd made that big an impact. I mean, down from that Jersey country, Taranaki. So, it's sort of a bit of swings and roundabouts, isn't it? There's players that are going to do well up there and players that aren't. I mean, obviously, I'm sorry, I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, but is it Sean McCormick also mentioning the fact that are you better off buying youth versus 2 stars from the Southern Hemisphere? I think it's all a balancing act. You need the experience to be able to bring that youth through. Your youth's not going to come through if they haven't got experienced players around them, showing them the ropes. And then there's the marketing side of buying in star players as well, because star players bring bums on seats.
Okay,
Yeah,
so just quickly. So Reuben Gibson, there's a quick shout out for you in Ireland. You wanted one, so there we go, quick one. Sorry, Stephen, go on.
Yeah, I was about to say there was the Wellington lock who did a shorts is very good. Willie Hines has been pretty useful at Gloucester as well. He's another one that's pretty good. We've but there's other guys. I'm just trying to think of the Wellington fullback who's running around. No. I just forget. He played for the Melbourne Rebels, and he had a season for the Hurricanes. He's a Wellington boy. Can't think of his name, but I think he was running around as Gloucester's fullback.
Oh, Wilson, is it?
James Wilson.
No, not James Wilson. So one of our learned watchers will know who I'm talking about. He went up there, made himself available for England, but I don't think he quite cut it. He was fullback for Wellington, ITM Cup back in the day before Mitre 10 Cup before he Jason Woodward. Yep. He's pretty. He's done well up there. So I think it's just so there's a couple of guys that are not transitioning. I think it's a little bit over the top if you ask me, and not to mention all the success stories of players that have gone to Ireland. Bundy Aki, Issa Nasiwa, just to name a couple. Yeah.
Jared Payne.
Even in the British Premiership, Charles Pierto. Well, hey, there's your eyes.
You forgot Carberry.
Joe Carberry. I don't know if we can count him. He was born in New Zealand, but
he was 11 when he left.
Yeah,
He
kind of does. Yeah, probably it'd probably be Dargaville Sportsman of the Year.
Now you've got players that come in like Isaiah Nuace. You've got even to a lesser extent your Conrad Smith, who's gone over, had a couple of seasons, and then gone into coaching with the clubs, who come in and they become part of the club and they're there for a long time and they make a big difference. You then got your kind of clubs like Wasps, who just seem to decide to turn over players and so they had Charles Piertow in for one season, then Curtly Beale came in and filled in for 2 seasons and then left. You then have Willie Garou, who's come in, done 2 seasons, and now he's off to Japan.
Yeah.
Now, what are you really gaining there? You're not. You're just losing. You're spending a whole bunch of cash. It's going straight out the door. You're not developing anything at the club. They're not really bringing through players.
That's only about one thing. When you're doing that on an annual basis for 1 year sort of thing, short term, that's only a marketing ploy, and that's all it is. There's no way that's around building, utilising their experience and training those younger players coming through, using them as part of the structure of the club. There is only one thing you're doing there, and that is purely a marketing-based exercise to get people coming through the turnstile.
Now, the other options, if you are that one jigsaw piece away from having a championship winning side, you could also see it as being that. But again, they're not. They've not when you're doing it over and over again. So players have just come in for that short period and go. It's a waste of money for the club. Whereas if you've got a guy who comes in and has been with the team for a long period, and I mean, someone like Jimmy Gopperth, for example, has been a fantastic person who went there, spent a long time with Newcastle. Sure, did a couple of seasons in Leinster and then has been over in Wasps doing a good job. So in that kind of player, yes, that's worth the investment. But the other ones, Piertow, Beale, LaRue, no, that was a waste. And they should be investing in youth.
Yeah. Look, Flowmaster 8, just raising a player which, if you're trying to formulate that argument about don't buy those star players or those has-been players, that had a name, but you mentioned Julian Severe. That was if I'm a team owner, I don't get that. You look at him and his performances in Super Rugby, and I think he even had a couple of minor 10 Cup games before he headed over to Europe. That's somebody that you wouldn't have thrown a lot of money at.
He actually turned out at 12 at the weekend, so they're now playing him as an inside centre, and didn't disgrace himself apparently.
It's quite interesting, guys. A player that got talked about in New Zealand as a possible All Black before he ran away over to Ireland or to Leinster was James Lowe's.
Yep.
And I know there was a lot of talk over here about him being an All Black because he's got a reasonable skill set in terms of that, especially that left boot, which is really huge, and on an international stage, something like that can be really great. But even up in Ireland, I've watched some of his games, and even the Irish commentators have basically picked up key things in James's game in and around his defence that have said, that's not the sort of thing that's going to get you across the line, because he's made himself available for Ireland. At the end of the day, I don't think he's going to quite.
Well, I think he's got to do three years residency first.
He's close to it.
So
he's getting close now. He's been there at least 2 now.
Okay.
But would you have him in an Irish team ahead of, say, Stockdale and Earls?
That's the debate that I've been seeing as well. Yeah, no. His timing, unfortunately, whilst his timing on the field's really good, timing is run in terms of positioning himself for a green jersey not working out for him.
And but as you said, defensive issues, yes. As an attacking threat, he's got pace, skills, vision.
Has he got defensive issues?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. He gets caught out quite a bit. He defends too far in. If you watch a lot of tries that get scored against him, he's actually been slightly caught out of position. But hell of a footballer.
Yeah, no, because the only reason I mentioned that is that when the Chiefs went through that real purple patch against the Crusaders, and they just knocked them over. James Lowe was a big part of that success, and that was shutting down the likes of Nemani Nandolo on a wing. And giving him basically didn't do anything against them, sort of thing.
Well, maybe there's no one there. I'm not going to get dragged in because I know I can't move more than 2 meters from this guy, otherwise he'll kill me. Maybe someone.
No, that's why I was sort of like surprised that
maybe Nadolo concentrated the mind.
Yeah.
Kane McCulloch reckons ahead of Earls. Now, Earls is a player who has been underrated his entire career. I think. Well, actually, maybe not. The first couple of years, he got selected as just a club player without international experience for a Lions tour to South Africa, and got himself injured early in that tour from memory. Clearly, gone blank as to the Scottish Lions coach. McGeechan. Clearly, McGeechan saw something in him, and whilst he has, as I say, fans on the whole haven't really warmed to him. I think there was thought that he was going to be basically the O'Driscoll replacement at one point because he was he started outside centre and has moved out to the wing. They're not really warmed to him, but he's someone who still has racked up something like 50 odd caps. So he's I think an underappreciated player. One of those ones that maybe you appreciate more once he's gone and you realise what you lost than actually you do while you've got him. To be fair.
I'm just sort of sitting here thinking I've got to keep a chalkboard here and make tally marks for every time I remember the players that you guys are talking about.
You see, these old guys, they've got a good long-term memory, but the short-term memory is short.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I'm going now.
So that brings us around to Steve then. Putting Steve on the spot.
Why? What about?
Our next,
our next topic.
Yeah.
So, Steve, you've got a choice of 2 because we're not going to get to do both of them. Do you want to take us on schoolboy rugby, or do you want to talk about Gatland eyeing Super Rugby role?
I think we could save schoolboy rugby for another time, and given that we're almost on the cusp of Six Nations Rugby, I reckon we go with Warren Gatland.
So, Super Rugby, Rob, what do you think? He's talking up his chances. Do you think he's someone who could do a Wayne Smith and do all of the Super Rugby roles bar the Crusaders are locked up? And let's be honest, if Scotty Robinson wants the role, the Crusaders one is also locked up as well. So there's no head coaching opening for him. Can you see him doing a Wayne Smith and becoming an assistant coach?
Maybe to get back into the New Zealand rugby scene, I probably can. To me, there's probably two franchises, because let's face it, the jury's going to be out on Leon MacDonald. I know he's just been named the Blues coach, but I'm saying that if the direction doesn't go headed in the right way that this franchise should go, it could be a very short stay. And Colin Cooper at the Chiefs, I think if they have two bad seasons, that's open, that's up for grabs as well. So I think there's two opportunities, maybe not imminently, but maybe a couple of years, an opportunity. But to answer your question,
correct me if I'm wrong here, Steve. I think when Graham Henry came back from coaching Wales, he took on a advisory role or a technical advisor role with the Blues, and actually made All Blacks coach from that, as opposed to a head coach in a Super Rugby team.
Yeah, I think you're correct, and we all know somebody of Graham Henry's quality gets involved with a team. There's a dramatic improvement.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think it's not a bad option for him. And the fact is that if he was eyeing up the All Blacks, I mean, let's face it, he has stated that he'd like to be an All Blacks coach. It'd be a good position to actually come in and be involved in the coaching team to familiarise yourself again with the nuances of the New Zealand coaching scene, the New Zealand environment, New Zealand players, before moving into a head role or moving into an All Blacks role.
Oh, I'm sure he wants to come home. I mean, to say I think if he had it his way, he'd probably want to get his hands on the Chiefs. He's a Waikato boy.
Okay, man.
It's a great. It's a Waikato. Yeah, exactly. It's a great part of the world. Down in the sort of central North Island. So hey, why not?
Or the Highlanders where his son's playing.
Yep, that's definitely an option as well.
As you say, he's a Chiefs man. He used to play for the Chiefs. I think that would be the. Well, did he actually?
I think he finished before Super Rugby started.
Okay, sorry. So he played for Waikato then. Sorry.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that the Chiefs is clearly the place where he would naturally fit in from his upbringing. Maybe Cooper could do with a technical support.
In saying that, I'd sort of think, these days it just doesn't matter, does it really? I mean, it's about coaching your team. Really? Is it really about where you're from?
You can see Scotty Robinson's coaching the Blues one day?
No.
Well, I'm sorry, we'd have to go deep into the psyche of what they do to the people that go down there, because he's not from Canterbury anyway.
Isn't he?
No, Bud Penny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, it's you'd have to understand what happens to those sorts of people, and make a comment on that. But look, at the end of the day, professional sport. It's professional sport, right? And that's the key. That if you want to climb the ladder, it's not about like, I only play here or I only coach for this team or that. So it's like, what steps do I have to take to give myself opportunity to progress up that ladder? It's like no different to a corporate world.
I'll be honest. The one thing I had a quick look at the article. One thing that surprised me was he said, I would like a Super Rugby or I might have to decide on going for a club role in Europe or Japan. I'm like, he hasn't even thought about maybe doing a year or two at Mitre 10 and stepping back into doing
grassroots.
A grassroots one.
What's become grassroots?
So when we saw John Gibbs come back and did one season or two, and back up to La Rochelle. So I was a bit surprised by that. I thought, look, if you do want to make a shot at the All Blacks role, then you're going to have to come through Super Rugby, and you either don't do anything for a couple of years, or how about doing a minor 10 cup role for a season and then stepping up through.
Show your colour, show your ability. Go down to a struggling team like Taranaki and, show your coaching ability by pulling them through. I know that was an injury based thing. That was just a shot at your jersey, really. But you know what I mean. There's a fact is that you take a team that's fine, like what I was going to say April Laramia, Alana Laramia and Phila Tiatia. Yeah, Steve gets it. Phila Tiatia, they came to a team that should have been relegated last season and made them the championship team. That's accepting a challenge and doing something, and showing your ability.
And that's also stepping down from, because he was an international coach with Samoa, right?
That's right, he was.
So stepping down from an international level, okay, it's not tier 1 international level, but it's an international level down to back to provincial rugby. His stock has risen massively because of that.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. I'm a bit surprised he wasn't prepared to do that. I think actually Taranaki would be a great place for him. They've got a very young coach there at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he's younger than some of the players. Which is amazing. It would have been, to me, that wouldn't be a bad place for him to go as a sort of technical support mentoring coach. And then and then step up into a Super Rugby coach role as it came around.
Absolutely.
Actually, guys, speaking of returning coaches, I thought a great coup named at the top of the week too for Manawatu, Peter Russell, who former Hawke's Bay coach, went to. Now I think he might have went to Newcastle Falcons. Is it Paul?
It was a name I wasn't recognising, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. Peter Russell is a coach that came through Wellington Rugby and had real success. I think he won multiple Jubilee Cups. Went to Hawke's Bay and he pretty much lifted Hawke's Bay out of the doldrums, but could never get a gig in Super Rugby. So went overseas and has come back and has been. And I'm actually delighted because he's got a reputation as being a very, very good coach. And
where's he ended up?
Manawatu Turbos.
And they had a bit of a shocking season last season, to be honest. I thought they had a good.
They had a good base. They had a good team.
They had a good base, a good team. I thought they opened up with a win over Waikato, but then got absolutely thumped by Taranaki and never really recovered from that, unfortunately. For Taranaki, who were a side they got relegated, didn't they? So they got relegated out of the Premiership. That's a bit of a poor showing. Now,
so basically to answer the question, Gatland, if you want Super Rugby, come and do some Mitre 10.
Yep. Now, I have an opportunity for you. Something that Ashwin and Stephen do not have. Well, they could do, but an opportunity to get something they don't have. So, on the 1st of February, that I will be opening up the Bucket Hat Club for 5 people only. And you will be able to get one of these DrivingMaul bucket hats. I'll put one in the post to you. So, look out for the details on that. On the 1st of February, I will be posting details as to how you can do that. It'll be via my Patreon site, so patreon.com/DrivingMaul. So keep an eye out for that. And say, big news on the 1st of February. Look at my Nightbot. See, my chat bot has put in some nice little comments there for people. So hopefully,
we're going to call him Homer.
Homer.
Yeah.
The only thing hasn't seemed to have mentioned all the comments I put in there. Never mind, that's going to do some more technology, a bit of fine tuning there. But hey, yes, my Well done, Nightbot. Thank you for joining us. So yes, we are slowly stepping things forward, technology-wise and improving things. And Stephen, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It has been an absolute pleasure to have a chat again.
Privilege and pleasure, guys.
And Ashwin, thank you for putting me up. Oh, sorry, go on.
Hey, I was just going to say, talking about technology, our first show at my digs, my treehouse, that we haven't dropped out in YouTube or uploading. So we might have solved that gremlin issue there, maybe.
Maybe. And I've just realised I forgot to use my 1 hour of free data on my phone. So I'm not sure how much data I've got left and how much this has cost me. Oh my God. As I'm clearly now, I don't have any money for food for the rest of the week. Please do become a Patreon. Oh dear. Subscribe and hit the bell, like, all of that kind of lovely stuff. Thank you guys. Catch you all tomorrow night for the All Blacks edition.